ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning, wherever it is that you are in the world. Welcome to another edition of A Few Rounds. Your two eminent hosts, Kary, Kelsoe, and Brad Hoover, come bringing news, speculation. We're going to discuss a few topics. There's a lot going on, isn't there, Brad?
Oh, man, there is a smorgasbord of topics out there right now. And, of course, it's been a while since our last podcast, so a lot's happened in between now and then.
Yeah.
But we're here now.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about the Star Wars Episode VII project due in 2015. Yeah. Lots of speculating going on out there.
It seems like they're going in a great direction on that.
You know, let's go ahead and, darn it, I really want to talk about it bad. Let's go ahead and start off with the newest Disney property. You know, I don't think we really have to recap any of this stuff. You know, Disney, of course, acquired the property and the franchise, and they've started the ball rolling. We've got J.J. Abrams not only directing it, but writing it, along with one of the guys that really, I mean, it's really hard to explain Lawrence Kasdan, but he was one of the guys that helped write Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and everybody, including you, I remember you calling me on the phone a couple of weeks going, "Oh, Jesus Christ! Lawrence Kasdan's going to be doing this." Like, well, it wasn't quite a voice like that.
I'm sure it was close. Yeah, I was excited about it because I was really concerned. You know, J.J. Abrams has a love for some mediocre writers out there.
Yeah.
Lindelof being one of them, and that was my biggest fear, that he would become involved in this property, that they decided to go that route with the person who was responsible for, you know, Empire Strikes Back, probably the best, to me, of the trilogies. You know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, you can't miss.
Oh, geez, forgot about Raiders. Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yep.
You know, I guess I just kind of kept him isolated to those two Star Wars films.
Which is important, too. That's probably where he gets most of his cred right there, being involved in those.
Right.
We know George Lucas has a love for CG and Muppets. Kasdan, I don't know. He seemed like whenever we talked about our past Star Wars discussion, how Lucas really was anchored by a lot of his writers. I think Kasdan might have been one of those anchors to kind of help reel him in.
Right. And it's interesting that you talk about the CG. I remember, and whenever you see it on TV, and especially when I was a kid, whenever you'd see those clips, you know, there were shadows on the models of like the X-Wing fighters going into the trench and the Death Star. It was definitely a mod. It wasn't CG, of course, that technology didn't exist, but when they came out with episodes 1, 2, and 3, you got these huge, just sweeping CG spectacles. And, you know, they were pretty, but it was obvious that they were CG.
Right. Practical effects, to me, is what is making not only movies better, but television in general. But they have already said that they're going with more practical effects this time around and less CG. That was definitely another news story that I was happy that, you know, to see that they're going in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they looked fantastic in 77. I thought they looked fantastic. I mean, even still on viewing, you know, the shadow play and that sort of thing. I'd imagine what they can do actually in 2014.
You know, that's what I'm hoping for, is definitely some more practical effects, better writing. If there's a product that's coming out in 2015 that I'm behind, it's definitely the Episode 7.
Yeah.
That would probably be what I'm most excited for, unlike, you know, I haven't really warmed up to the whole Batman v Superman yet, and I don't think I will anytime soon.
Yeah, as the date draws nearer, I think I will be.
Really? The Star Wars Episode 7, the release date is going to be December 18th, 2015, so they're going to wait until after summer. But yeah, 2015 looks packed. I guess that was part of their decision to make it a Christmas release.
Yeah, so far, that is the hard date. And, you know, listen, timing, you know, notwithstanding, it's probably going to take a little while to, you know, hammer this thing out. They started some pre-production. They're definitely filming the bulk of it in Pinewood Studios, which was always the traditional filming property for a lot of franchises, actually. I heard from a cousin that's a professor in Chicago that she had some work to do, or all of her students had some work to do this week, but a lot of them left early because they were doing casting in Chicago yesterday.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the casting because I've heard people actually showing up for a casting actually dressed up in Star Wars garb, and I think that's going to be a big no-no. Like, if you're going to go to a casting call for a Star Wars movie, don't dress up like Obi-Wan, you dorks.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I just want you guys to notice that these guys with the plastic lightsabers are probably not as good actors because I have the halogen lit $200 prop lightsaber. I'm hardcore. I mean it.
I actually prefer the old 70s flashlight version.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd blow them up, actually. They're like that see-through kind of blow-up plastic that they made swimming rafts out of.
Yeah, they were more durable. I mean, you don't have to worry about well, you can still break them, but they were definitely more durable.
Oh, yeah. You could literally beat somebody with those things. It wouldn't hurt it, actually. It was kind of funny. They've got, tentatively, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford on board to, of course, play the original characters as their older selves. Mark Hamill's very good friend, his name is Robert Englund. He was the guy that played Freddy Krueger.
Mm-hmm.
You remember?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently that's like one of his best friends. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But he had said in an interview, oh, yeah, they've got Mark in the gym. They've got him a nutritionist, and he's, working out because he's got to go be Luke Skywalker. It'll be great to see those guys. It'll be great to see Harrison Ford. Geez, he's actually looking a little crusty to me, I think.
Yeah.
But shuffling around, I think it might need a little CG, actually, for Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Or just keep him behind the console of the Millennium Falcon.
He turns it on with a clapper.
It's going to be interesting to see how Disney expands on the universe because they've got so much more stuff planned that doesn't sound as exciting. But it'll be interesting to see what other products they have. J.J. Abrams is a guy who loves fan service. And, look at, Star Trek Into Darkness. It was just basically each shot. Yeah, each shot was basically fan service of, hey, look at this. Hey, do you remember this from this episode? Oh, yeah, you remember these things. So, it wouldn't surprise me, but I hope they keep it reined in. I mean, I want to see Episode 7 be as classic or become as loved as the original trilogy to me. So I'm hoping that they do good.
Well, I'm of two minds. Here's one side. Disney is terrible with making contemporary adult, and I'm not talking about Touchstone, pictures. I mean, like what they did with Sorcerer's Apprentice, though that was always kind of a weak idea to me anyway. And maybe the Nick Cage curse had something to do with it, but that was not a good movie.
Right.
Tron Legacy, one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. Kind of weak, though.
Yeah.
I thought it was weak. And so now they've got Star Wars, and I'm like, eh. On the other hand, you have J.J. Abrams and Kasdan writing this thing, and Lucas apparently was giving an interview saying, they're keeping him on as the creative consultant. When he goes into these story read-through meetings and that sort of thing, and he's very strong about it. He says, you absolutely cannot do that. This character would do this. This doesn't exist. This does not exist. It's like, I'm the guy that knows these things. That made me feel fantastic.
Really? I mean, well,
very positive, except for the fact that, of course, he screwed up episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Right. That's my only thing. Is I don't know. I'm of mixed emotions about it as far as him. I mean, hey, you know what? He created Star Wars. He brought it to us. He should be creative consultant in a way, but at the same time, we might end up with another Muppet movie.
Yeah, right. When a creator is in the first place, I don't know. I was the kind of guy that always felt that Star Trek was always better when it was coming from Gene Roddenberry because he's the creator. And I don't know if it's some sort of God complex I give to these guys, but, they thought them up.
Right.
So they are really the only proper person to be doing these James Bond books. I always read the Ian Fleming ones, and I always have a problem grasping Bond when another author has written it.
Right.
The films are totally different from the books. Wildly varying. But, when you've got a creator that started off just really, really fantastic and then just missteps, and it was all his creative control, like he did with episodes 1, 2, and 3, I feel strong about it only if he gets it right this time with episode 7.
Right. Well, like I said, it looks like it's going in the right direction. Well, of course, I'm sure there's going to be news galore coming out within the next. I mean, we got a while until December 18th,
Yeah,
2015.
right.
So, and it might actually. You're right. I mean, with all the stuff being done, that date could easily push out to summer of 2016.
Yeah. I mean, they could take their time and wait a little bit. I mean, shit. Well,
Yeah, we've been
waiting.
waiting since 1999 for a good Star
I was
Wars.
about to say. Hey, we waited long enough with between episode 6 and 1. So
We should have waited way longer.
yeah, and it was horrible, and still we clamored for more. So if they want to wait 6 months and do it in the summer, please do.
Right. Yeah.
And honestly, we could really discuss this. We really could discuss this for hours. Maybe we should do a series on just Star Wars speculative bullshitting until that could be the name of the series, actually. Speculative bullshitting.
That's right. I mean, hey, you're right. We could do this all day long, and without even touching on what we might think the story might be, like the actual logical continuation from the ending of Return of the Jedi.
Oh man. Yeah. Let's digress. Let's talk about something that's a little bit closer. Definitely sci-fi also. Speaking of retreading 80s and 90s, let's talk about the Robocop 2014 project that's coming out.
That's set for February 12th of 2014, which is around Valentine's Day, which is going to be kind of weird, I guess, if you have a girlfriend or significant other that you want to go see a movie with that time, and maybe they might appreciate a Robocop movie, or they might dump your ass the next morning for taking her to a Robocop movie.
Yeah. If you're married, you could take your secret Skype nerd lover, maybe, and check out the guy in the metal suit struggle with his identity and his family being dead. Because both of them are hot. Wasn't it Cornish? Something like that. I can't remember.
Right. When I first heard about this, I was not really on board with a RoboCop remake. I was like, really? As I've seen more, they both look like two completely different things. Like the original, of course, RoboCop, done in 1987.
I'll buy that for $1.
That's right. Was full of quotes and just campy action. But this one looks like it's taking itself a little more serious.
Sorry, I get so much joy whenever I think about that first movie.
Oh, yeah. Okay, since we're talking about the original, what's your favorite scene? Because I have a definite favorite scene.
I've got a feeling that you and I have the same favorite scene.
Kenny in the boardroom?
When E209 gives that guy 34 navels. Oh, it was like, it was like Sam Peckinpah and crystal meth. It was just hamburgered the guy I was like, there's no way this guy could still be standing taking this. I mean, he was standing there for like 7 seconds doing a death jig while these just...
The practical effects just made that scene.
Yeah, right. This one I'm a little worried. They got Samuel Jackson, and literally I see these movies these days. Samuel Jackson is on the screen. He's literally the only living creature that's in the frame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got him. That's good. But and I know it's not a cast of unknowns or whatever. When I see the trailers, I'm like, this guy actually looks like he could be Data's brother or something. He looks like he already is a fucking android. Right. Now they're slapping polyceramics on the front of his face. I don't know. I'm not too high on it, bro.
Yeah, like I said, I think they're going to be two different beasts. I mean, one from the 80s being fun and campy. This one, like I said, it looks like it's taking itself a little more serious. Like, I mean, the boardroom scene that we were just talked about, I was laughing the whole time because it was just hilarious.
Yeah, definitely. I see where you're coming from. I'm just not too keen on it because I'm not sure if... And listen, a serious RoboCop movie, I think that would be a fantastic idea if you want to go in that direction. I'm questioning if these are the people to do it.
Yeah,
it looks rather sterile.
Yeah, well, of course it was written by Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner, the same people behind the 1987 version. So, I don't know, maybe they were asked to do something... This is RoboCop, but let's not make it RoboCop. If we're going to remake it, let's do something that you can set apart.
Yeah.
My main concern about this movie is it's been done for a while. The film dates was from like September 1st of 2012 to December 23rd of 2012.
Yeah. Well, it was in development hell before that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's been in post-production for a while, for a really long time, actually.
It may be because it's not very good. Peter Weller did an interview with the LA Times, and he was talking about the pre-screening. He said he believed that despite the nice CG of the remake, the morality of the original film was too hard to replicate. He closed his reply saying, "Good luck to them. You'll never do it, but good luck."
Oh, wow. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't leave too much to be desired, it sounds. Maybe it's just when it comes to older actors who were in the limelight as that property, there might always be some kind of jealousy. You always see that with remakes because people say, hey, that movie doesn't need to be remade because it's still relevant, it's still great, it might be from 87, but it doesn't show age. Because it is timeless. It is one of those timeless movies. So there's always that. So to me, it's just like when Romero came out dissing The Walking Dead because they felt it was more soap opera-ish. But I was just like, man, that's just Romero being a bitch. I mean, we've all seen Diary of the Dead, and we've seen Survival of the Dead, George. Yeah. It's horrible. It's not Dawn of the Dead
It's not a
Chief.
secret that George Romero has a lot of sense of self-importance.
Right. It definitely looks interesting. The last trailer that came out definitely had me going, well, you know what? Maybe I was wrong about that initially. Maybe it will be good.
But, regardless of what Weller said, apparently there are some reports out that the director called a director friend of his saying that during the production that it was a terrible, terrible experience. They're cutting a bunch of his ideas and that he was just suffering, basically.
Wow.
So it sounds like it's troubled a bit, and then this long post-production process, they may be doing a lot of rethinking.
Wow. Well, I'll be honest with you. I was excited about it to begin with, but now I don't know. After hearing all this, actually,
I'm not trying to kill your dream.
Oh no.
But that's the whole Siskel and Ebert thing that you and I do.
Oh sure.
You'll like something. You're not terribly excited about the Batman Superman thing as I am. You're excited about the Robocop more so than I am.
Yeah.
Hey. That being said, hey, that actually for Angel and I, that might be a good Valentine's Day date. We've been together for some time, and she can't break up with me over Robocop.
Are you sure?
If it's really bad, she can use that as admissible evidence in court.
Yeah, you'll have to owe her one after that. Hey, there might be a whole different complaint section for RoboCop. It wasn't just a bad movie, but I had a girlfriend, on the 14th, and on Saturday the 15th I didn't. Thanks, RoboCop.
Right.
It's February 12th, which is a Wednesday, which is a very weird release date for a movie. But
okay, listen, let's move on.
I don't think we're helping the movie out anymore.
No. Well, listen, let's talk about some TV.
Yeah, TV. Better than it used to be, in my eyes.
Not on the networks, though, necessarily. Ratings have really kind of fallen off for Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, not a fan.
Because there's not a whole lot of Marvel going on in that show.
Right.
However, there's a few bright spots, and that are going on this year, and they are not traditional network shows. Definitely wanted to talk about, the two big ones I'd have to say would be Walking Dead and American Horror Story.
Yes.
Thought we'd talk about American Horror Story today, though. Coven.
Oh yeah, loving it. It is a great show, and I'll be honest, I was late to the American Horror show. I didn't actually watch it until, way later on Netflix, maybe 6 months ago. It was just one of those shows that I had heard about, so I actually watched it and just ended up marathoning it. And then, of course, the second season had just wrapped up, so I had to wait to get my hands on that. Saw it, and I loved it, and now, of course, I'm loving the third. I'm a fan. I tune in every Wednesday.
Yeah, the slightly different tone with this one, I think.
Yeah, way different.
Yeah, it's more straightforward than the other two. Definitely more episodic, but damn, it's good.
Yeah, Yeah, American Horror has had since the first episode, the second season, and now even this season. It's got this rabbit hole effect to me. Every time it ends, I'm like, man, I cannot wait for next episode.
One of the reasons that the show is so good is because there's always something earth-shattering to the story itself happening. I mean, literally every episode, you're like, wow, how are they going to actually, from a story perspective, deal with this? And they pull it off. You literally tune in the next week. They're still carrying on with it. They do it well. And I think that's really kind of one of the strengths of the show. They really are always constantly in flux going forward, and they're all really satisfying. And it's got that little bit of camp in it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They do that. There was an episode a couple of weeks ago, it was one of the Halloween episodes, where all of a sudden, literally, Zoe, the good little witch, the Sabrina the good little witch type, just breaks off with a chainsaw, just dismembers all the zombies. I was like, well, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting episode. I was like, wow. I didn't. Yeah, you're right. That one did kind of come out of left field.
Yeah, right. And it literally turned into something from the 80s. I was like, what?
The actors involved in this series from the first to even this season, knock it out of the park. Really, it's the subject matter, the script, and the delivery that makes the show so worthwhile. Yeah,
and there is a show on Lifetime. I think it's called The Witches of East End. You heard about this show?
No.
There's a Lifetime original program, right? They're doing a witch show. It's called The Witches of East End, which has this actress from Twin Peaks. I love shows like Twin Peaks. That's why I think I like American Horror Story so much. But she was part of the cast. I was like, I want to compare and contrast these two shows. And it was definitely a lot campier. They're definitely more soapy and more fun, I guess you could say, than American Horror Story. A lot of people say it's kind of an alternative to it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, this is where TV shows like American Horror and Walking Dead, you kind of forget that you're watching TV. What ruins TV shows for me is that made-for-TV feel. That's why I can't get into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because it just feels like when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, I'm watching TV. Just some regular, basic network television.
Do yourself a favor and don't watch Witches of East End, because it definitely feels like it definitely feels like Lifetime, which is infinitely worse than even ABC.
Right? It's a ABC family. Avoid it. No.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. That's the thing is these shows that are edgy and gritty and have such a great script and writing, and the fact that they do push the television envelope of that normal G fill or that PG fill. For these kind of shows with the subject matter, or even when it comes down to just Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if it were a little bit more grittier, maybe it would be better.
Well, with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I mean, it is a comic book thing. I mean, it doesn't have to be like Kick-Ass, but let's put some superheroes. Let's put some Marvel comic aspect into it. I think that's why that show's failing, actually. It needs some superheroes.
Yeah.
So, may I blow your mind for a moment?
Oh, sure.
So, apparently, Ryan Murphy, the show creator, and he's the showrunner, and he likes that. That's actually one kind of nice thing. You can ask him some questions, and he's not so tight-lipped about it like they are on Walking Dead. He actually will, in fact, tell you what's going on, and I think it's because he wants you to get his message that he's trying to, convey. He's not one of those, I'll leave it up to the viewer to decide. No, he really does want to tell you what you're supposed to get, right?
Right.
So, coming up, guess who is showing up as a special guest star in episode 10?
Has he been on before?
It's a she and no.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Stevie Nicks.
Oh, I should have. Man, I feel so dumb. I should have seen that coming. Because
she was touring with Fleetwood Mac in Europe, but Mick Fleetwood's got cancer, so he canceled the tour. And then Ryan Murphy called her, and she's like, "Unfortunately, I will be available. What would you like me to do?" So he's bringing her into episode 10.
Wow. Well, that makes sense because the another character which I'm enjoying is the blonde witch who has a thing for Stevie Nicks, who always plays her music in the background whenever she has a scene. Yeah. So you know what? I even said I cannot believe I didn't get that, because I even said as a joke to someone next to me, I was like, I'm gonna flip out if they bring Stevie Nicks on because she as a witch.
Yeah, and she
Wow,
is a witch.
that is going to
I
be
thought
pretty funny.
it was great. And apparently, so they're bringing in, they use real life or based on real legends of New Orleans people. The Axeman, who was an infamous turn of the century, 20s serial killer in New Orleans. They brought him onto the show
Oh yeah.
as a spirit that's been set free. Apparently, he and Fiona for the rest of the season are going to have some sort of sexual relationship. Which I don't know, it's John Huston's son and Jessica Lange. I don't know. That might, I don't know.
Strange.
It is good. Yeah, they're really pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
And then you have Emma Roberts, Julia Roberts' niece, who I remember her from the Nancy Drew movies that seemed to have just come out like a couple of years ago. My daughter enjoyed them greatly when she was 7, and she's 9 now. They're doing like a big story arc with her. I thought they had written her off the show completely, but after a bout of death and necrophilia, she's back again, and they are using her as she can't feel anything anymore. And Ryan Murphy said that she is a direct representation of the millennial generation. They can't feel. She's just stuffing herself with as many pleasant experience and hedonistic experiences as she can, and he's trying to make a statement with her character.
Wow.
That's deep.
Yeah, that is. I was about to say that is pretty deep. I didn't look into it that deeply. I was just.
Hey, a few rounds, man. We get philosophical.
That's right.
It takes interesting directions like that. I think that in a way, it can explore a story a little bit more than Walking Dead because the circumstances of society and human interactions make things a bit more narrow. Here they literally can talk about necrophilia, the millennial generation, mother-daughter angst, and oppression of the races.
Yeah.
That,
well, to anyone who's listening, if you haven't checked out American Horror Coven, do so. It's a great show, and if you haven't seen the other shows, which I know is easy to pass up because it fell through the cracks of my viewing list, if you haven't seen them, check them out.
So to cover one more show, I think that a whole lot of people ended up catching the premiere episode of Almost Human. Actually, apparently a lot of people, the intrawebs were pretty active with talk and opinion about the new show. Really, it was mostly, instead of analysis, of course, people were saying, what do you think, good or bad? And offering their opinions on a first episode anyway.
Almost definitely.
And some peaks, and it's always kind of nice to see, okay, great, we got the first episode down, and they show you scenes from upcoming episodes, and it looks like they do, in fact, have some things to run with.
Yeah, I think the premiere was definitely interesting. It was nothing we haven't seen before.
Oh, yeah. A lot of tropes, a lot of sci-fi tropes. The one single disadvantage or one bad mark that I would give would be we've seen it before. That being said, they really put some nice twists on it. And in a way, I really don't necessarily mind. I've seen it before.
Right.
I think that most of those angles are mined. But when you got a couple of guys like it's Carl Urban and Michael Ealy.
Yes, Michael Ealy.
Great chemistry. I really like those two on screen together. They're, this is, like you said, primarily, sure, it's science fiction, but you're like, listen, this is a buddy cop show.
Yeah, and that is actually what made the show for me, the fact that there was really, really good chemistry, which kept me smirking through their conversation through most of the time. And I think will keep me interested, because, the acting is so well done. It doesn't look forced at all, and very well written, and executed even better, I believe.
Yeah, good flow of play, as we like to say in the tabletop role-playing community.
Yeah, and every time I see Carl Urban, I was just like, damn it. I really wanted him as Batman. I know I keep on saying that, and I promise that will be the last time I say it, but I just want to go on the record of being the fanboy that requested Carl Urban as Batman, because he's got that look. He's got that angst when he wants it.
Right. Right. Nice square-jawed angst instead of hollowed-out cheeks, long-faced, angst.
Yeah.
But, yeah, looking great. I remember the first scene. You remember the shootout? They started it off with a shootout, lots of explosions and gunplay. A lot of it seemed very first-person shooter.
Oh, yeah. And it's always against the bad guy, the Syndicate. That's one of the things I was like, when I first heard it, I was like, there's always, especially in future shows, there's always a bad guy, and it's always the Syndicate. In video games as well. It's always, there's always a Syndicate. Whatever happened to groups? Why do people hate on groups? Yeah, you can tell when the androids are accessing data. They have that glow around their face, which was interesting.
So anyway, great if their entire face would have been sort of superimposed faintly, still giving the features of the green power on button from an Xbox.
Right.
He's an android.
Yeah, I expected a couple of red rings and some blue lights coming from the PS4
There's some
these
red
days.
rings of death when it died. As soon as when they did the pulse and shut everybody off towards the end, red ring. You called tech support up for it.
Did you hold down the power button?
Damn. Rookies.
That's right. No, but I think it's a great show so far. The action was good. I enjoyed the action.
Yeah, there was some action. In a way, though, there was some... I remember when they opened up with that grenade launcher or whatever, very first scene, and there's the explosion and the guy flies out of the second story. Seen that before, and that's great. And then they show Carl Urban a few minutes later with his leg blown off. And I was thinking to myself, if they're going to really press the action, when we used to watch A-Team back in the 80s, you'd see the explosion, and a guy flying off of a tower or whatever. I was like, okay, see that? Why not go ahead and CGI it and have that guy missing like an arm?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Then again, it's Fox. I would have liked to have seen a project like that. I would love to see, and we've talked about this before, AMC. You practically wrote a very thoughtful dissertation, well, it was oral, for like an hour, where if AMC or FX or hell, HBO, if they could do just a hard science fiction show, that would have been a really great vehicle, I think, for a network like that. Fox is doing it great for Fox.
Right.
And, of course, you've got the censors as that sort of channel. Gosh, this sounds terrible. Could have upped the violence a little bit.
Yeah. If they were allowed to do more, yeah, I could see that. Because it's really supposed to be a science fiction crime drama. And who doesn't like some crime drama?
No doubt. With Carl Urban.
Right. You could do much worse.
With Fox especially.
Right.
So I guess the crux of what we're trying to say is it's a good show.
Good show.
Actually sci-fi, and it's gotten to where it feels like I'm losing cred in my own mind just talking about how I'm anticipating a sci-fi series, because they're just so truly awful recently. But
that is so unfortunate too.
They have it is, because that was my favorite channel at one point. But they are coming out with a show in January called Helix, which is being done by Ronald D. Moore, who was a Star Trek writer, known as like one of the good writers. And then, of course, he went on and did Battlestar Galactica. And he's got a lot of integrity. He's not one to rush anything. He's not one to I just want to work and just puts out terrible product. But that looks pretty good.
Well, honestly, when you say sci-fi, their production and CG has almost become jokishly bad. Almost like you expect like a B-movie quality, like Sharknado. Only sci-fi could pull something like that off. Right. And people actually enjoy it. Sharknado. A tornado that actually has sharks going around in it and killing people.
Right.
It's kind of funny because I would almost be one of those people that said, sci-fi, seriously, just go back to showing Incredible Hulk, Knight Rider, and Battlestar Galactica shows.
It's like the 1978 Battlestar Galactica.
Right. Go back to the way you were back in '96 when you were showing older shows.
Sharknado and wrestling, which actually I guess wrestling does in fact fall under sci-fi, really.
Right. If you mean bad acting and fake, sure.
Oh, it's just outrageous, Kane coming out of the grave and all that crap, The Undertaker, whatever.
Do they really show wrestling, though? That shows what I know.
Yeah.
I haven't watched
Wow,
sci-fi.
you have been away for a while.
Right.
Good for you. You just earned some cred. You didn't know wrestling's on there, and I did. I'm a nerd. Yep. You were definitely cool for not knowing. And you know what? It could go 5 years. It'll probably still be on that. No, they actually produce. They're carrying the contract for a certain night. And I don't know what night it is. At least I don't know what night it's on. But yeah, they're doing wrestling.
Wow, way to go, sci-fi.
Bastards. So listen, before I just get really down, because you really just brought me down, dude.
Sorry, that's not my intention.
Let's talk about GTA 5.
Okay, let's go into the GTA 5.
Because this was a very important, and I'm not just talking about you and you're foaming at the mouth that you were doing there, but this was a very important game premiere. A lot of people were saying that it was going to be very revolutionary, and I remember seeing the trailers going, Jesus, that looks incredible.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at the wrap-up of the current gen, so this was really one of the few last games to expect in this current generation. It's Xbox 360's close. We are coming... I mean, we might get a couple more games released.
And Rockstar Games apparently was not going to go gentle into that good night. This was a pretty explosive. They did a lot of... Man, what a marketing campaign.
They hyped it up. Fans and Rockstar... definitely put that machine in motion. It became a hype machine for sure. It was hyped. And when you go back and you look at trailers, and I mean, you don't really see much gameplay. You see either scenes from the game or you see things that really never even really made it into the game when you look at it now, but you didn't know that looking at it. You're like, wow, this looks amazing, immersive. The city looks living and real, and people posting up for sale signs on their homes.
When you finally got your copy of it, it seems that when you're looking at a video game, you've got three real big areas that you're looking at. You're looking at graphics, of course.
Yes.
You're looking at story. And then you're looking at the actual gameplay and the mechanics of it. Let's talk about the story, actually, because we're on number 5 now.
Yes.
And though they aren't actually supposed to be closely tied stories, these aren't direct sequels and that sort of thing, we've got a story in motion here.
Yes, there is a story in motion for sure.
So if you were to take out go through the gameplay and do it great and look at the cinematics and look at it all chronologically as a work, say like a movie, would you pay to see that movie?
I would probably pay to rent that movie.
All right.
But okay. I would not go pay good money in theaters to see it. The story has shining moments. It also has some very weak moments. The story altogether, when you look at it, I think the best way to sum up the story, and most people who've played this will, GTA 5 is very polarizing. Either people have loved it, or there are people that see it, that it could be so much better. And then there's a very few select people that actually hate it. But as far as the story, if it were on Netflix, it would be a 3-star out of 5.
Wow.
It wouldn't be high up on the list. Yeah, if you search Netflix and you go by highest rated, it'll be midway through your search.
I mean, have there been better stories in the franchise?
Yes. In my opinion, of course, this is just based on. I've played GTA since the first one on my PS1, and of course, not counting GTA 1 and GTA 2, which were just top-down arcade games.
Yeah.
And of course, Rockstar has everything split up in universes. They have the top-down universe. They have the 3D universe, which is GTA 3, GTA San Andreas, and GTA Vice City. And then they've got the HD era, which encompasses GTA 4 and GTA 5. Now, in this whole slew of things, one game kind of gets thrown out, and it's Red Dead Redemption, made by Rockstar, but not in per se that very same universe.
Well, I mean, is this really even the kind of game that? Because there are some games you do in fact play for the story. I mean, and luckily they do have great game mechanics and graphics and that sort of thing, but you really just get kind of involved with the story. Some of the Resident Evil games like that. But are you playing GTA for story?
Actually, Yeah, and that's the thing. That's kind of the most disappointing thing for GTA 5 is this game is set around heists. You're a retired thief. I mean, your thing was taking scores, and the game is set up around that, and it takes away from it. I mean, it borrows from a lot of crime movies, especially Heat. And instead of taking Heat's stronger plot points and story arcs, or just story in general, it takes the weakest sums, and it doesn't even improve on them, and it doesn't even copy to where it would actually be interesting. For instance, there's a scene in the game where you set up and you sack a armored car to steal its contents, and the setup is great, the execution is great, but where the story goes with it, it's kind of ridiculous. And without even getting into the gameplay part of that certain story, the story itself is just a little weak because you're not really doing it for you. You're not really doing this armored car sack for you per se. You're doing it as a favor for a government agency, and you're not even really getting paid for it. And why you would be doing that in the first place.
Yeah.
Without any,
Right.
yeah, you might be doing it for them, but you expect yours in change, and there's none of that. There's not a lot of reward in this story, and even though the job was executed well by the actors and the voice acting's good, the script and story is just kind of ho-hum.
Let's talk about the graphics to go along with it. Let's talk about the visual then. This is like I said, an aging out platform. How does it look?
It looks great. This is about as good as you're going to get on the Xbox 360 or PS3. The graphics cannot improve any more than it already is. It runs great. There's very little frame drops. Now, they've had issues. There's been issues with the release for some, and for some of the patches that were released. The map is huge, and there are no loading screens whatsoever. It's all open, and you don't have to worry about going over a bridge and entering a loading screen or anything like that. Even if they maybe had done that to where there was loading screens, maybe things would be a little bit more stable in some areas. But, I mean, for a huge map streaming, you can't get much better. I can't see how much better graphics you can squeeze out on these older systems. I mean, Xbox isn't young by any means, and it's not getting any younger. So, right now graphics are about as good as you're going to get on Xbox 360, so they did not disappoint.
I'm glad you said that about the no loading screens, and maybe I had just gotten used to it. But I mean, I would jump out, on the other side of the bridge, loading, and when it pops up and you're reaching for, a Hot Pocket or your Mountain Dew, all of a sudden, apparently there were 20 guys waiting for you
Right.
on the other side, and you just get destroyed by, the Purple Pants gang.
Now, on the other side of that, it's a very empty map. There's not a lot of interactivity. For instance, Red Dead Redemption had a lot of interactivity in it. There were a lot of bounty missions that were recurring, regenerating. GTA 5 only allows 4 bounty missions, and once they're done, they're done. And once you've done everything in the game, and that's including side missions, that's pretty much it. And the game does look very beautiful in certain spots. You'll be driving up to instead of the Hollywood sign, it's the Vinewood sign, and it'll be night, and it'll be clear, and there won't be much smog or very many clouds. And the way the city looks in the distance is beautiful. I mean, it shines in very moments. There might be a moment where you're on the water on your boat, and you're going past the mountains, and the reflections from the water. Wow. And you just stop. I actually stopped the boat and looked at it. And
Wow.
very few games will actually stop you from playing to actually admire the scenery. And the fact that they could do that on the Xbox 360 or PS3 is pretty impressive. I mean, there's a lot of detail when you look at it. When you look at the graphics just for the graphics, and you take everything else out of consideration, you just look at the graphics and the detail. It's pretty impressive.
Gosh. So your main, I know that you have your opposition, but there's always been the, in game, but there's always been the constant threat and presence of the police.
Yeah, the police in GTA 5 this time around are relentless. They need some tweaking. This is another negative thing about the game. In GTA 5, it just seems like no matter what you do, pedestrians are programmed to call at a moment's notice. In fact, they call for no reason. You can be standing close to a pedestrian. They may not like you, or they may just kind of aggro. And if they don't attack you, what they'll do is they'll pull out their phone and they'll call the cops, and you'll automatically have a star rating. And the spawning system's a little wonky, especially when you're in the mountain region and all of a sudden you have a cop spawning in front of you going up a bike path. and most of them fly off the mountain.
Right.
It's a little weird. It needs some tweaking. If you got a 1-star and you leave that area, the cops will go away. If you stay in that area, they're going to come, and they're not going to try to arrest you. What they will do is start shooting at you and give you 2 stars. And it gets tougher, and once you get 3 stars, that's when the helicopters show up. You actually have to go underground in tunnels or underneath overpasses.
In the sewers and things.
Yeah, and thankfully they have those. They have the metro tunnels, the sewers. What makes it frustrating is the fact that it's like almost every 5 minutes, because it's a GTA game. I'm not in GTA to play super citizen. I'm in there to cause havoc, steal cars, murder people, kick dogs. I'm constantly having to evade the cops and run from stars. But that being said, with the cops, they're definitely more frustrating than they are. And not to mention, here's another point that makes them even more frustrating, is if you do get into a situation where you're just not quick enough, or you get a cop called and you don't really notice the star, which just happened. It's easy to do if you're not paying attention to the top end of the screen. And you get the 2 or 3 wanted level, the cops are crack shots. It's not like they're cops. It's like they are super cops or SWAT. In this GTA, you don't have the amount of health or health pack flying around like you did in the old one. So if you get a couple of headshots, you're dead. If you don't evade the cops when you get that 1 or 2 stars, if you wait till it's 3 or 4, you might as well just blow yourself up, because you're going to be spawning at a hospital after they kill you, headshot you.
Wow, it sounds like real life.
Pretty much.
Because if you don't have any armor and 5 or 6 cops come after you, you're going to end up dead.
Exactly. And, well, that's the thing, is I think they based it a little bit more on reality, which took some of the fun away. It grounds itself in reality only to take away the fun of what we play the game for, and that's to escape reality.
How's that online?
Where these games shine is when you go on with your friends. You're good to go. If you go play it solo, griefers, you can't really knock them. You can't really knock people for being assholes in a game centered around Grand Theft Auto and killing in general.
You can't expect. You have to expect assholes when playing a game about a bunch of assholes.
Exactly. Honestly, I'm not a big online player. I enjoy Battlefield games and didn't really touch GTA 5. Like I said, it was hard to connect to servers to begin with. From that point, I didn't play it that much. I've still got my character. I haven't really gone online. That being said, there's fun to be had. If you have your group of friends and you guys like to go online and cause havoc and mayhem and do missions and stuff like that, which the missions aren't very strong. And after the last patch, our Rockstar decided to lower the payoff of the missions. That was a weird thing, too. They have this whole economy set up, and I honestly think they did it to be able to sell these online cash cards where you pay real money so you can get a lot of fake money, and I think that's shit. I hate that the console generation has
pay to play.
Yeah, pay to play, exactly, and has gone in that way of like DLC and stuff like that really has no value. As far as online, it's fun. It's there. It's GTA. You can go with your friends. You can make your character. It's definitely fun. But I play GTA's for the single-player component. That's my main drive for GTA 5. The way I feel about GTA is it feels like they sacrificed a lot of the single-player for the multiplayer. For instance, for GTA 5, you can steal a car from the street. You can take it to the shops that are called LS Customs, which you can mod and paint your car. You can sell online. You can sell cars. Single player, you can't do that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Which is the strangest thing. Why would they admit that ability? Because it for one, it's an easy way to make money, and two, it actually adds a purpose to stealing cars, which is great. Why would you call your game Grand Theft Auto and not have the ability to sell cars?
Well, it's quite true. Actually, they should have put that on a single play. Now that you put it in that perspective.
Yeah. In single player, there is no inventory system. So you can't just put on a mask on the fly. You actually have to go to your house, go to your wardrobe, put it on.
Equip the mask.
Exactly. Right. And then you can't, in order to unequip it, you have to go back to your house, go back to your wardrobe instead of just on the fly. And two, another thing about the health thing, about dying so easy, is you can keep food on you on multiplayer to kind of heal you. Whereas you can't do that in single player. Like I said, it feels like they sacrificed a lot of the single player for the multiplayer, and that's a shame. GTA 4 had fun multiplayer, but it didn't sacrifice any of the single player content to put it in there.
Well, we know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So does that hurt the replay value of the game?
I've finished my second playthrough of the main story in GTA 5, and there is absolutely no reason to start a new one. There's no reason, and for some, not even to start a second playthrough, because once you've played through the missions, there's really no diversity. Another thing about the story and the missions is they are so linear. There is no real huge difference in choosing another option for like heists, on which this game is built on. For instance, this is one of the first heists you do. You're given a choice. You're given the illusion of choice, I'll say. You can either choose loud and dumb or quiet and smart. Loud and dumb, you're just basically walking in, crowd control, guns, and just, smash and grab jewels. Or you can set up the heist where you take chemicals to be able to have somebody go up to the roof, throw them into the air filtration units, and will knock people out, which will give you more time to steal more in the store. But you go in quietly. The whole store is knocked out. No one sees you go in because you're disguised as like pest control. There's no difference because they both end up in a huge police chase. And I know they did that in the story for the kind of action that the story wanted to go for. And like I said, it makes the game so linear that there is no free play, or it doesn't feel like I'm attempting to do this mission on my own, like on my style. I'm doing it kind of the way the game is forcing me to do it.
Right.
And I like when games give you that option. In GTA 5, there's more of the illusion of choice between how you're going to tackle a heist, but they all end up in the same over-the-top Michael Bay action police chase.
Right. Lots of explosions and cars jumping and stuff.
Right. Like when they take that scene from Heat with the sacking of the armored car, it ends up in a huge police standoff when really, during the setup, during the execution, the missions are set up to where it should have been perfect. It should have still given you enough time to be able to get what you needed, get the hell out of there before you even hear the sirens. But the way they have it set up, they hit the panic switch and the cops are just there like magic. And that's what really drags down the game. Been there, done that. No need to see it a second or third time.
Yeah, right. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, literally, it was a what's the point?
Exactly.
So, if you had to give it a number between 1 and 10, if you had to rate it,
yeah, my score an 8.8. Which it's a good game.
That's for all the pissing and moaning you did. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
8.8.
Coming out shortly, Rockstar is going to be releasing this content creator for multiplayer, which allows you to create your own scenarios and missions. If they were to release this component for single player, for offline and online, the replayability of this game would jump from don't really need to I'm playing this game almost every day or every other day.
Well, outstanding. It is going to be sad to see this generation bow out. I'm glad that Rockstar did do a really big, ambitious project so close to the end. There's definitely some kudos for that, too.
Oh, yeah. Looking at the time, it's time to wrap up our show and bid...
Gosh, it's been an hour. It does not feel like an hour.
Unfortunately, it is, and we have to bid our online listeners a farewell until next time.
Can't wait.
Exactly. And thank you guys for listening in and making us part of your podcasting regiment, or even if you're checking us out for the first time, check back, listen to other episodes, and give us a comment below what you think. Give us a like, if you will.
If there's something maybe that you would like to discuss or hear discussed on the podcasts, please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, find us on Facebook, on Twitter.
You bet.
Well, great, man. Well, it's been a pleasure, and this has been A Few Rounds. Please join us next time.
Take care.